November 1970. St. Augustine Orphanage, a Catholic institution located in a remote corner of northern Maine, was completely emptied overnight. 29 children, 4 staff members, and Mother Superior Catherine Muller vanished. Bedding was neatly folded, dinner was left half-finished on the table, the front door was left open. The missing were never heard from again. And exactly 20 years later, as the building was being prepared for demolition, construction workers discovered a hidden room in the orphanage's basement. What they found inside led to the case being reopened, and it became one of the most disturbing mass disappearances in American history. To support the channel, take 1 second of your time and click the subscribe button for free. St. Augustine Orphanage was founded in 1923 in the isolated countryside of Aroostook County. The nearest town, Ashford, was 8 miles away, a small community hidden among tree-covered hills and vast pine forests. The orphanage itself was a 2-story stone structure, standing at the edge of its property, gray and unforgiving, with no other building in sight. The building was operated by the Catholic Church and took in children from Maine and neighboring New Hampshire and Vermont, mostly children abandoned by their families or removed from bad home conditions. By 1970, St. Augustine was in financial difficulty. State funding had decreased. Donations had dwindled. It was said that the diocese in Portland was close to deciding to shut down the institution and distribute the remaining children to other facilities. But officially, the orphanage was still operational, headed by Mother Superior Catherine Muller, a strict 62-year-old German nun appointed from Portland. In November 1970, 29 children remained at St. Augustine. Their ages ranged from 5 to 16. 4 staff workers, along with Mother Superior Muller, made 34 people living and working in that remote stone building. On Wednesday, November 18, 1970, they were all there. By Thursday morning, November 19th, they had all disappeared. The first alarm was raised on Friday morning, November 20th. The local postal worker in Ashford, Roger Hendricks, was making the weekly delivery to St. Augustine, usually bills, church correspondence, and occasionally packages for the children. He arrived around 9:30 as expected. Postman Hendricks found it strange that the front door was open. The November Maine weather was cold, and Mother Superior Muller hated open doors. He usually left the mail in the front hallway without being let inside, but that morning he pushed the door open and called inside. There was no response. When he stepped inside, the building was silent, unnaturally silent for a place housing 34 people. No children's voices, no footsteps, no noise of daily activities. Roger Hendricks left the building and drove straight back to Ashford. At 10:15, he called the Aroostook County Sheriff's Department. Deputy sheriffs reached St. Augustine before noon. The building was empty, but there was no obvious sign of struggle or violence. The details were disturbing. Dinner in the dining room sat cold on the table. Forensics later estimated the meal had been eaten on Wednesday evening, perhaps around 6 or 7 o'clock. People had sat down to eat, started eating, and then stopped. As if on a signal, they had all gotten up and walked away. Vehicles sat in the garage. Both sets of keys were hanging on the kitchen board. No one had left by car. The disappearance of 34 people, 29 of them minors, triggered a large-scale search operation. Maine State Police, local deputy sheriffs, and hundreds of volunteers were mobilized to search the hundreds of acres of forested land surrounding the orphanage. Dogs followed tracks from the building. Divers checked nearby lakes and rivers. No bodies were found. Residents of nearby towns were questioned. No one had seen anything unusual from the night of November 18th or the morning of November 19th. From November into December, the search continued for 6 weeks. State police brought in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. FBI agents examined the orphanage's financial records, personnel files, and the background of each child. No reason for abduction was found, no criminal history among the staff. By mid-December, the search slowed down, and media interest faded. As the years passed, some suggested that the children and staff had carried out a planned escape, fleeing the orphanage's harsh conditions and impending closure. But why had they left in a rush and abandoned their personal belongings? Others believed Mother Superior Muller had led everyone to their deaths in a religious madness, perhaps poison, perhaps suffocation, perhaps by some other method. Then she had hidden the bodies in the woods. But without bodies, This was an unprovable theory, and it was nearly impossible for a single elderly and physically limited woman to kill and hide 33 other people. As the years went by, former orphanage residents who had stayed at St. Augustine before 1970 came forward. Their accounts revealed disturbing patterns. Thomas Millard had lived at St. Augustine in 1968 to 1969. In an interview with a journalist in 1985, he recalled, "Mother Superior Muller was a strange woman, religiously zealous, strict, but she also kept certain parts of the building off limits, sections of the basement. She said they were unsafe. Children who tried to go there were punished. I always wondered what was going on down there." Linda Hirsch had stayed at St. Augustine from 1965 to 1967. Mother Superior Muller would walk around at night. She did this often. At 2 or 3 o'clock, we'd hear her walking in the hallways. She would pray, sometimes in Latin. Once I saw her standing outside the girls' dormitory, just standing there, eyes closed, lips moving. I don't know how many minutes she stayed there. It scared us. These accounts shed light on St. Augustine's psychological environment, but they clearly didn't explain the disappearance. In 1990, exactly 20 years after the disappearance, the Portland Diocese made the decision to demolish the St. Augustine Orphanage building. Local authorities said it was a safety hazard. They ordered the diocese to remove the building. In September 1990, a construction crew came for demolition. As workers systematically emptied the building's interior, removing old furniture, appliances, pieces of debris, they discovered something in the basement. Behind the east wall, behind old heating boilers and water heaters, there was the outline of a room, an interior wall structure that didn't match the exterior wall line. Workers used jackhammers to open the wall. Behind it was a hidden room. The room was approximately 15 feet wide and 20 feet long. The ceiling was low. There was no ventilation, no window. The only entrance was a doorway closed with a heavy wooden door and concealed by storage materials placed in front of the wall. And the interesting thing was the room wasn't empty. Detectives from the Aroostook County Sheriff's Department were immediately called. What they found in the hidden room caused them to immediately reopen the investigation 20 years later. Inside were 22 bodies. The bodies were arranged on beds around the room. 16 were children, 6 were adults. Forensic teams spent weeks identifying the bodies. Through clothing remnants, dental records, and comparisons with old photographs, all 22 people were confirmed to be from St. Augustine's 1970 disappearances. But 12 people were missing. Mother Superior Catherine Miller was not among the bodies. Autopsy results were even more disturbing. Dr. Patricia Keene from the Maine State Forensic Medical Office directed the examination of the 22 bodies. The cause of death was asphyxiation. The room was completely airless. The positions of the bodies told a story. Most were lying in beds, as if they were trying to sleep. Some were in fetal position. Small children were curled up next to older ones, probably staff members trying to provide comfort in their final moments. One body, 13-year-old Robert Klein, was found by the door. His hands were raised against the wood. His fingernails were broken. He had tried to get out. No one had used violence. Just slow, inevitable suffocation. In the middle of the room stood a small wooden table. On the table was a notebook. The notebook belonged to St. Augustine Mother Superior Catherine Miller. The notebook's complete contents were never publicly disclosed, but excerpts leaked to researchers revealed a disturbing narrative. The first entry was dated November 1st, 1970. The dreams continue. Every night the same vision. I wake up and I'm certain this isn't just a dream. This is a warning. Something is coming to us. I can feel it. November 5th. 3 of the children started a fire. They said they saw a figure in the room, someone dark standing in the corner, but no one was there. I scolded them for imagining things, but I saw it too. Last night, at the end of the dormitory, it was watching. November 10th. I can't sleep anymore. I see movements in the corners. I hear whispers in the walls, words. I don't understand the language they're speaking, but I understand the tone. The notebook clearly showed that Mother Superior Muller was experiencing severe psychological distress before the disappearance. Paranoia, hallucinations, delusions. Mother Superior Muller, under religious mania or a psychotic influence, believed she would protect the children and staff from an imaginary danger. On the night of November 18th, she had directed them to the secret basement room. The most disturbing question is what happened to the remaining 12 missing people. Maybe the entire group didn't enter the room initially. Maybe 12 people, led by Mueller, went somewhere else. And why did she leave 22 people to die in a sealed room? Maybe she locked them in there until the danger passed. After decades of research, detectives and investigators agreed on the most likely explanation of what happened. On the night of November 18th, Mother Superior Catherine Mueller, under the influence of severe paranoia and religious delusions, gathered everyone staying at St. Augustine. She told them that danger was coming, that they needed to go to the secret basement room, that they would be safe there. Under Mueller's authority, they obeyed. So where did the 12 people go? As the years pass, answers grow more distant, but the St. Augustine mystery continues. A story waiting to be told, a secret waiting to be solved, a monument to one of the most disturbing disappearances in American history. If you want more unsolved mysteries that have defied explanation for decades, despite all the research, subscribe to Mr. Mystery.